Just one 5-minute phone call, that's all it took to dismantle her precious HOA empire. Can you imagine? She had the nerve to march up to my ranch gate, face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon, shouting that my daughter wasn't allowed on our own property. She ranted about community rules and claimed no unregistered minors could roam free, like she thought she was the queen of the whole countryside. Then she took it further, dialed the cops, and accused my daughter of trespassing. But here's where it all backfired. Turns out, the officer who picked up that call happened to be a longtime family friend. A few honest questions later, the truth unraveled. And not even a week afterward, her beloved HOA completely shut down, gone, for good. By the way, where are you tuning in from? Drop a comment, I want to hear it. 6 months. That's how long it had been since Helena passed brain cancer took her from us. Just me and our 8-year-old daughter, Ember, left on this 40-acre spread outside Millbrook Springs, Texas. The loss came in waves. Some mornings I'd wake up, sure, I'd hear Helena making coffee, like always. Then I'd remember she wasn't there. Ember was struggling in her own quiet way, barely speaking, barely smiling, locked away in her room with her toys untouched. But today was different. For the first time since the funeral, I heard something that didn't feel heavy. Laughter. Real, pure laughter, drifting from the backyard. I stepped out onto the porch and saw Ember running wild through the meadow, blonde pigtails bouncing, hands outstretched, chasing butterflies as they floated through the wildflowers near the fence line. It hit me right in the chest. That was the girl I remembered. That was my Ember. That meadow had always been Helena's favorite spot. She called it Ember's healing ground, a place where our little girl could forget the pain for a while. But that moment, it didn't last long. A shrill voice sliced through the warm afternoon like a warning bell. Excuse me, excuse me? A woman, maybe early 50s, came storming across the field like she owned the air itself. Her auburn hair was styled like she'd just stepped out of a magazine, and she was wrapped in a white blazer that screamed, "I spend more on fashion than you do on food." Behind her trailed a stiff man in a suit, juggling a clipboard and struggling to keep up as he took furious notes. "Ma'am, can I help you?" "Her," I called out, stepping in front of Ember, who instinctively ducked behind my legs. The woman's posture, her stride, the look in her eyes, every part of her triggered my instincts as a father. She reminded me of the types I'd seen while doing contract work in Dallas, people who used paper, rules, and fine print to crush folks who couldn't push back. She stopped inches from me, and I caught a whiff of her overbearing perfume, something floral and forceful. Then she straightened her shoulders and spoke with the sharpness of a judge about to deliver a sentence. "I'm Vivian Blackthorne, chairwoman of the Pinehurst Manor Homeowners Association, and your daughter is in clear violation of our community's safety code." Her words dripped with entitlement, like she expected me to salute or apologize. But I didn't flinch. I knew right then this woman had messed with the wrong family. She was clearly used to people obeying her without hesitation. With a dramatic flourish, she pointed directly at Ember, who clung even tighter to my side. Section 47B of our safety charter states that unregistered minors are not permitted to engage in unsupervised outdoor activity within 500 feet of the community's living perimeter. This field is within that range. I'm instructing you to remove the child immediately. I blinked. Did I hear that right? Excuse me, what did you just say? This is my land. It's been in my family for over 70 years. I don't know what HOA you think you represent, but you have no jurisdiction here. It would have been funny if she hadn't looked so serious, like she truly believed she had legal dominion over a child running in her own backyard. The entire scene felt surreal, like something out of a bizarre alternate reality where overbearing neighbors could rewrite property boundaries at will. Vivian's lips tightened, and she turned to her assistant like a villain delivering a final blow. "Richard, present him the documentation." The man looked like he'd rather sink into the ground, but he hesitantly passed me a thick folder. It was packed with stamped papers, maps, and legal text. "You'll find the documentation is valid. Mr. Steelwright, your estate was annexed into the Pinehurst Manor Residential Authority via a regional landscape protection agreement, signed 2 years ago, by your wife. Perhaps you should have reviewed the fine print." My stomach dropped. I flipped page after page until my eyes locked onto it, Helena's signature, page 37. It was real, and I'd never seen it before. My hands began to shake as I scanned the terms. They gave the HOA absurdly broad power over property maintenance and child safety protocols, within a newly defined perimeter which somehow now included our meadow. It didn't add up. Helena wouldn't have agreed to this. She was fiercely independent, always on alert to keep our family's land untouched by outside interference. But 2 years ago, she was already deep in the fight. Her treatment had left her exhausted, confused. The chemo made it hard to focus. She was vulnerable. "This can't be right," I muttered, the words catching in my throat. She would have never willingly signed this. She was on medication, barely lucid some days. She didn't even read the mail half the time. Even as I spoke, a horrible doubt crept into my thoughts. What if she had signed it, not fully aware What if someone came to her with this, knowing she was sick and alone while I was at work? Vivian's smile was sharp and cold. Not understanding your legal responsibilities doesn't free you from them. Mr. Steelwright, she said, with smug satisfaction. Your wife was declared mentally competent at the time of signing. Our legal counsel ensured that. She pulled out her phone and, with a theatrical pause, held her thumb over the emergency dial button. This is your final warning. Remove the child from HOA protected grounds. Refusal to comply will result in immediate law enforcement action, criminal trespass, and child endangerment. The words hit me like a slap across the face. After everything, after losing Helena, trying to hold it all together for Ember, now this some self-important woman, waving paperwork and threats like weapons, trying to shatter the little piece we'd managed to rebuild. I had no words. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. A neighbor, a complete stranger, was threatening to have my daughter arrested for playing outside her own home. I looked down at Ember. Her eyes, wide and scared, looked just like Helena's used to when she was sick. She had already lost her mom. I couldn't let this cold-hearted woman steal what little peace and comfort we still had. All right, I said tightly, placing my arm around Ember. Come on, sweetheart, let's head inside. As we walked back toward the house, I could feel Vivian's smug satisfaction radiating from behind us. She thought she'd won, but deep down, I knew this wasn't over. It was just the first move in a much bigger fight. Behind us, I heard her barking orders to her assistant. Richard, document this as a confirmed enforcement event, and schedule another inspection same time next week. Once we got through the door, Ember turned to me with tearful eyes. Daddy, why can't I play outside anymore? Did I do something bad? That simple question shattered something inside me. How do you explain to your child that adults sometimes twist rules into weapons, that power-hungry people target the innocent just because they can? I dropped to one knee, holding her close. No, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Some folks just like to make rules that don't make sense, but I promise, Daddy's going to fix this. Even as I said the words, I didn't know how I'd make that happen. I didn't have a legal team. I didn't even understand the documents they threw at me. But one thing was certain, Vivian Blackthorne had just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She came after the only thing I had left in this world, and for that, I'd fight with everything I had. Then, just as promised, Vivian raised her phone and calmly dialed 911. Yes. I'm calling to report an ongoing trespassing violation involving a minor, she said smoothly. The parent is refusing to comply with clearly defined safety standards. This is a potential risk to community welfare. She spoke like she'd rehearsed it, like this was just another Tuesday power trip. Her voice was firm, rehearsed, dripping with the kind of false concern used to justify cruelty. She waved her hands around, pacing back and forth across my land, describing me like I was a threat to society for letting my daughter play among wildflowers. I stood silently beside Ember, her tiny fingers wrapped around mine. She pressed her head into my side, eyes wide, watching the madness unfold like it was a scene from a bad dream. A part of me wanted to laugh 911 over a kid playing outside, but the other part, the one that sat helpless while Helena fought for every breath, knew better. People like Vivian didn't bluff. They didn't just use rules, they weaponized them. She had paperwork, she had a polished voice. And worst of all, she had done this before, and in a small town like Millbrook Springs, people listened. In a town like Millbrook Springs, a well-connected HOA chairwoman could ruin someone's life, especially a grieving single dad just trying to hold things together. The responding officer will arrive in about 15 minutes, Vivian declared, snapping her phone shut like she'd just sealed a business deal. I suggest you spend that time wisely. Think carefully about what happens when you defy established community stand.